I'm Zoe Watson, and welcome to the Game Day U finale. I'm joined by Britton Ross, Ryan Smith, and Cameron Crawling. We'll be covering and wrapping up the regular season games, the bowl game, and Brent Venables' first season. And our first topic is the regular season games. Of course, OU fan base was hoping for a spectacular season from Venables, but it was at most average. Britton, what are your thoughts?
This was a good season to lay the foundations for the future of this program under first-year head coach Brent Venables. Reaching a bowl game was huge for the team, being able to get the extra practice in for next season. It gives the defense more time to learn and grow in this new and complex system. The team as a whole was pretty inconsistent and did not play cohesive ball at times, something I know Coach Venables will hammer home this offseason. There were also some inconsistencies in the play calling by offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby, which has drawn some criticism from Sooner fans. Ryan, what about you?
I think going into the season, this clearly wasn't the result that the coaching staff, the players, or the fans wanted or expected from Team 128. The defense struggled heavily throughout the season, giving up over 450 yards per game. The offense was very inconsistent, going from a shutout against Texas to a shootout against Kansas. But I think with a combination of a brand new coaching staff on both sides of the ball, along with losing players to the draft and to the portal, OU was bound to have a subpar season to their standards.
To me, it was definitely a disappointing season. I expected the defense to not be good, but this season the offense sputtered also. I was under the impression that the offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby would bring a high-powered offense with him. It had its moments, but it just wasn't consistent.
And now to our picks of the regular season MVP. To me, Eric Gray stood out in each game with 11 TDs over the entire season. Gray has already declared for the NFL draft, and I'm super excited to see where he ends up. Britton?
I wanted to say tight end Braden Willis because he's just the kind of leader that you want on your team. But my regular season MVP is also Eric Gray. He quietly rushed for 1,364 yards this year, which is 9th in school history. And more in a single season than Sooner legends Joe Mixon, Joe Washington, DeMarco Murray, and Heisman Trophy winner Billy Vessels. Gray was the most consistent player on the Sooners team, rushing for over 100 yards in 8 different games, and like you said, Zoe, 11 touchdowns on the year. Gray averaged 6.4 yards per carry, which is incredible given how inconsistent this offensive line played for most of the year.
I mean, I'm not going to say that Eric Gray wasn't the best offensive player on this team, but my regular season MVP has to be Dillon Gabriel. No doubt he's had his inconsistencies throwing the ball, especially in Big 12 play. But OU's offense is night and day better with him under center. Gabriel this season tossed for 2,925 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. The stats aren't going to blow anyone away, especially with the quarterback play OU has seen over the past 6 seasons spanning back to Baker. But I think the most valuable player has to be DG.
All right, well, I'm also going to go with Eric Gray because he had over 1,300 rushing yards, 229 receiving yards. He led the Sooners in yards from scrimmage. He got the opportunity to start this year after transferring from Tennessee in 2021. Now that he's declared for the NFL draft, I am so anxious to see what he does at the next level.
I agree with you, Cameron. He stood out to me overall. And for Venables' first season, everyone was expecting a lot more. But with a new head coach, transfers, and new play calls, a 6-6 season isn't too shabby. And hopefully just to lay down the baseline for more seasons to come. Britton, what do you think about Venables?
Like I've already said, this year was about laying the foundations for the future of the program that Brent Venables wants to build here in Norman. I do think Venables needs to take more of a hands-on approach to the defense next season, and I think Sooner Nation expected to get the guy who's always yelling and needed the get-back coach. And that's just not who Coach Venables was this season. I expect Venables to be more involved going into his first full offseason. The Sooners currently hold the 7th-ranked recruiting class for 2023, but it will take some time for Venables to build the team the way that he wants it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree, 100%. It's not the season I'm sure Brent Venables wanted as his first head coaching gig, but with all of the roster and coaching turnover that OU has had over this past offseason, I'm not sure that anyone could have had the success that the Sooners have come to expect year in and year out. I just can't wait for what more he has to bring to the table.
I completely agree. I understand it wasn't his defense this year since he hasn't had the opportunity to recruit his players. But honestly, the defense still looked anemic. Was it worth $7 million a year to finish 500, especially with the move to the SEC looming in the distance? If you would have asked me in September if we should opt out and move in 2023, I would have said yes. But now I'm not so sure we're ready.
That is true. I agree with you, Cameron. Yeah, I like the energy. QB1 Dylan Gabriel's first season at Oklahoma threw for 24 touchdowns with only 6 interceptions for the regular season. I do know he needs to work on his long ball and his pocket presence. With a little more time and some more targets, OU offense will slow down for the defense to recover. Britton, how did Gabriel look towards you?
Gabriel showed some flashes of what he and this offense can be. He was hindered by a dirty hit in the game against TCU and had to miss the Texas game because of it. Gabriel dealt with some inaccuracies this season and really seemed like he just couldn't see the field at times. Assuming Gabriel comes back for his senior season, these mechanical issues will be worked on this offseason. Gabriel was OU's best option in Jeff Lebby's system with his previous experience in it, and I expect Gabriel to be in total control and to command this offense next season. Ryan?
Yeah, I thought he had a pretty good season. The inconsistencies hurt, especially in those contests that OU just couldn't pull out a win. But like I said before, the offense runs so much better with Gabriel under center. And I think that the difference that DG made out on the football field for the Sooners isn't something you can ignore.
Completely agree. Are we still quarterback you, though? After producing back-to-back Heisman quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts being a strong finalist in 2019, and Caleb Williams transferred to UFC and being the top contender to win it this season, is Gabriel really in the same class as those guys? I mean, he won the Big 12 Newcomer of the Year, but his plays never even put him in the talks for a Heisman.
I think it's hard with a new quarterback and a new defense. It will be hard to overcome. Now on to the opposite of the ball, defense. The defense this year was fantastic. It has been a while where we have seen such a dominating linebackers. The problem was the fast pace of the offense, not allowing the defense to recoup and rest. Britton, how did the defense look to you?
Coming into the year, I think Sooner Nation was expecting OU to have a top 10 defense. In year one, that's just completely not realistic. That being said, OU ended up with the 120th total defense this year, but they did shine in a few specific areas. They led all Power 5 schools in tackles for loss, and they were 38th in the country in defensive passing rating. The system Venables runs puts a lot of stress on the linebacker core, and too many times this season, you could see that the linebackers were filling the same gap in the run schemes, leaving the backside cutback lanes for the opposing running backs wide open, and that's one of the main reasons why OU gave up nearly 200 yards per game on the ground this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The writing was on the wall for the defense struggling in Brent Venables' first season. Maybe not to the extent that they did, but Venables' history when he first takes over defense is less than stellar. In his first 2 seasons with the Clemson Tigers, the defense ranked 71st and 63rd in yards per game allowed, respectively. In his 3rd season, they climbed the ladder to 25th. After that, his defense never left the top 10, boasting the first-ranked defense in 2015. His early season struggles, combined with losing guys like Nick Benito, Perrion Winfrey, and Isaiah Thomas, the defense was bound to struggle.
The Sooners' defense only managed to hold opponents to 46 less yards a game. Hardly a big jump. Did they have more interceptions this season with 16 compared to just 11 in 2021? Unfortunately, they had a big drop-off when only 4 fumbles recovered this season to just 12 last season. What about you, Zoe?
You know, I think with the defense that we are used to, overall, I mean, for my type of age, we're not used to seeing a really commanding defense. And I know it was the first year, but I'm excited to see what they have more. Sure. And then for Oklahoma's bowl game, the Cheez-It Bowl against the Florida State Seminoles. I'm excited to see OU one last time this year, and I wish I could go to Orlando with them. This will be an even spread game to me, in which team will want it the most will come out with the dub. Britton?
The Seminoles are riding a 5-game win streak, and they haven't lost since October 15th. FSU finished the regular season with a 9-3 record, and they come into the game ranked 13th in the country. Oklahoma's going to have a tough task ahead of them, as the Sooners' 18th ranked offense will have to get the ball moving against the 14th ranked Florida State defense, without running back Eric Gray and both starting offensive tackles after they all declared for the NFL draft. And look for the OU defensive front to try and create chaos up front as they try to get the Seminoles behind the chains on early downs, and they'll have to keep constant pressure on the FSU O-line if they want to have a shot to win.
This is a somewhat under-the-radar game and rivalry, the Sooners and the Seminoles. OU leads the all-time series at 6-1. The last time these two squads suited up against each other was all the way back in 2011, finishing up their home-and-home series in Tallahassee. OU was able to pull out the win, 23-13. The bigger story, of course, being that fabled 2001 Orange Bowl, where the Sooners captured their 7th national championship over Florida State, 13-2. For the Cheez-It Bowl, I just can't see a way that the Sooners pull out the win in Orlando with how bad the defense has struggled throughout the 2022 season. Cameron?
Well, you know, the Sooners are heading to the Sunshine State. Maybe I'll get to be one of the lucky fans selected to watch the game from the Cheez-It bed on the sideline. Did you guys hear about that? On a slightly more serious note, I'm picking the Sooners over the Seminoles, 38-24. I mean, we got to go with the Sooners. ACC conference, really, it was pretty weak.
I'm excited to see.
I mean, Clemson still did win.
Yes. Thank you so much for tuning into our Game Day U season finale, wrapping up the college football season. From me, Britton Ross, Ryan Smith, and Cameron Crawlin, have a safe holiday season.